It's time for the rematch. These two players started off the group. SuperNova against CoCa, our very first best of 3. SuperNova made it look easy, but CoCa on the up and up, taking a 2-0 against the best. Playing against the same style, the gap in skill between SuperNova and the best is massive, but still, if you're right now CoCa, you're going to be thinking, okay, I've just been playing the same style in this matchup over and over again, and if I can just improve it slightly, if I can keep on this roll, on this momentum, maybe I can beat SuperNova here. And I have to do it. I'm going to go to Code S. Rolling up the sleeve.
Rolling up the sleeves already. He's good to go. Now, I mean, CoCa has to step it up compared to the first best of 3 that they played. He got annihilated by SuperNova. That wasn't even a contest. So he really has to play a very different game. And Frost is going to be map number 1. So we're going to jump into the Zerg versus Terran, SuperNova versus CoCa, our consolation match here at the GSL Code S.
SuperNova versus CoCa.
SuperNova starts to the top right of the map here on Frost, our first map in the best of 3 at the GSL Code S, the consolation match between him and his first opponent of the day. He has to play him again. This Terran versus Zerg, with the Zerg player spawning to the bottom left, cross-positioned on the map. We have Virginia Green Wings, CoCa.
CoCa definitely has this in him. Being very lifelike here, always doing the extractor trick there to get his extra drone. And we'll see what SuperNova has planned. What would be crazy to see is if SuperNova plays a totally different style in this. I don't think he will, because he had so much success with it. If it's not broken, don't fix it. But this is also a really good map for mech. Well, not great spawning locations for it for SuperNova, but still, like, I think stick with what works. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. He's already going to go for a different build, though, before I can even say anything, because he's going into Command Center first, which is not the opening he chose in either of the games, which really slows down his timings to be aggressive with Hellions and Banshees. It kind of eliminates those timings, actually, altogether.
Yeah, for me, I actually expect that SuperNova, maybe not on this map, but at least in the series is going to show us mech again. I am more concerned about what CoCa is going to do, because he looked like he didn't really have an answer to SuperNova's style in the first series that they played, so he has to do something completely different, in my opinion. And I'm very eager to see what his plan is. He's a player that I enjoyed to watch back in the Wings of Liberty days. I really loved his style. And I had a couple of really interesting games that I watched when he was playing after he started his comeback. And I really want to see what his idea here is. Because he's a player that can adapt. And he needs to show that against SuperNova now if he wants to have a chance to go to Code S.
Yeah, this is really, really important for him to do. Well, spawning pool coming up here, not doing anything crazy, not going double hatch 4-4 or anything like that, not against a player like SuperNova. And I think that it's possible SuperNova still just goes into mech, even though he went CC first and doesn't have the early gas. He's already getting his first gas up now.
Talking about CC first for a second, I really like that he gets it on the high ground. We've talked about it in the past, but usually only when the Terran player decides to put it onto the low ground. In most cases, it won't really have any consequences to you, and you will get that base a bit faster. But there's always the threat of the Zerg player starting to be a bit aggressive, and if you get the command center first on the high ground, you will have that extra safety. And SuperNova is someone who doesn't want to risk anything here. He knows that, of course, everything is for him on the line here as well. And I don't think that he will ever have that mindset where he says, like, yeah, I beat you already 2-0, you are easy, it's not going to be a problem for me to beat you again. He's going to take this super serious, and you can already see that with him taking no risks with his opening.
Yeah.
And as it happens, CoCa builds extra Zerglings.
Yeah, he's actually going into 6. Already Marines in the bunker, though. And I'm not even sure why he goes into 6 here. It depends on what he does when these Overlords pop. He could actually go for more. I don't think he will. He starts 1 drone.
Didn't he get more than 6?
I think he only got 6, if I'm not mistaken. No, actually looks like he has 8.
I thought he built like 4 additional ones that would put him up to 10.
Yeah, 10.
12.
12, yeah.
Even 12, yeah.
I don't know why I just missed it, I guess. But still, he's going to be fine here.
Yeah, 2 Marines and a wall already set, so that all the aggression didn't work. And SuperNova with his defense and him really committing to this, that absolutely is exactly what he needed here. So he's going to be very happy about this. Yeah. Also, he has double gas and he has the starport up again.
He's meching it.
He's trying to make it work.
He mech'd it work in first series.
I always like, you know what, in a lot of games I just want to have like a soundboard where you hit a button and just one of the sounds comes in. It's always awesome when you have like two stalkers, for example, shooting at each other, and then you have a double kill, and you get like the double kill from, I think, Ultima Online, where it was first introduced. It's now also part of like Dota. And just for a situation like this, I want to just have a Shiva like mech, something like that. And every time you
like
hit
as soon as the armories go down, you just press it.
Mech. I would love that. It would be super silly, and probably at some point I would just annoy people to death with it.
You know what? On your personal stream, I bet you could actually make that really easily.
It's really difficult to find like a good soundboard where you can just put the sounds in that you
want.
For the
hotkeys and stuff.
Yeah, it should be so easy, but I didn't really find a good one. I really need one because
what I consider doing actually is installing. You know how you have those? There's 10 kilos keyboards, and there's like the USB number pad.
Yeah, exactly.
Installing a second number pad and using that just specifically for soundboards. I thought about buying one of those.
Yeah, I thought about something like this, but you still need the software for that.
Yeah.
And I don't think that you can simply assign just sounds to this. So if you just Google for soundboards, there's so many options, but a few of them are like really weird, and it's just like a simple assigning a simple file to like one key. It's weird to me that doesn't exist in an abundance. But yeah, coming back to the game itself, like we still have SuperNova with a bit of aggression here with those Hellions, trying to have a quick look there, and also starting the Banshees. And by the way, if people actually that know something like this already have an answer, you're always welcome to tweet a link to me at Caldo. I would really appreciate that.
I want one too, man. Send it to Proxy Wolf too.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking for soundboards as well. I've been trying to make a
Star Wars
Wars
to you if someone has like.
Yeah, I want that.
So right now we have once more the same style from SuperNova that he showed us in the first series in CoCa, this time prepared with a few more queens. He has already... how many does he have? Does he already have 5 and gets into 7? So that will help him a lot. Spore Crawlers are also ready. And SuperNova might this time have a bit of a tougher time preparing for this.
It's just cross spawns makes it so much harder for him to actually get over here and get the stuff done that he wants, because it takes his Banshee longer to fly, it takes his Hellions longer to get over here, the Reapers as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
If he had them, he didn't have them, of course, because he went CC first, but he's not going to get through here this time. He's considering it, but there's no way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, I completely agree. The map works definitely in favor of CoCa for this style. And CoCa actually with the Baneling Nest here. I did not expect the Baneling Nest to be dropped by him. Double Armory, by the way. Mag.
What do you think the Baneling Nest is going to be for?
Well, the thing is, if you have Banelings and you can roll them into, let's say, the Hellions, that actually works. And also, if your opponent goes for a lot of Thors, if they are clumped up, you can do a lot of damage with this. I feel for him, it's just an additional safety net that he has there.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to actually make any unless he feels like he's under so much pressure that he has
Maybe he also thought that it wouldn't be mech on this map, and he thought he would just go into Ling Meter Baneling, and now that he realizes it, drops the Roach Run, because the Roach Run is a lot later than it was in the last game. So maybe it's just that he assumed a different style to be chosen by SuperNova for a map like Frost, and now that he realizes, okay, it's going to be mech again, he goes into the Roach Run and won't even use the Baneling Nest. But it's just an added safety net that you have.
That one Overlord is so important because he's going to see... Well, the Overseer sees the mech, which he already kind of had a good idea was coming, but the Overlord that sees the Banshees that are attacking the 4th allows him to get his Queens over here in time, and he may just save it. But actually, if he had targeted that down, he could have done... I think he could have forced to cancel with no Overseer nearby. Meanwhile, all of these earlings are going down. This base is forced to evacuate.
It's a bad day to be a Zergling, and drones are also on the menu.
He's
and
actually
he
just
builds more lings. He's just going for a massive amount of
Oh my god!
Zerglings.
He gets into the natural here. There's no Queens. They're coming, but they're a bit too slow.
That should not have happened. Now he goes in the main base. The Queen's a little bit too slow for that. When are those lings are going to pop out? Just in a second. He gets his kills, though.
Yeah. And this time there's no Overseer. Like I said before, if there's no Overseer, you can actually kill this hatch, get a cancel it. Queen's going down.
Queen, 17 Harvesters killed already.
Oh, this is just a bit of sloppiness by CoCa. He could have prevented most of these things from happening. The reason why the Hellions got into the main base was because the Banshees pulled the Queens back, and he knew that was going to happen. He had his Hellions on the left side of the map just in case that he committed all of his Queens to defend this hatch. He still saves the hatch, but that could have been a much better defense by CoCa, I feel.
He's on 4 bases on the other hand, so he has the bases, but you're right, he could have defended better there. The Evolution Chamber was a little bit too late to block it with a single Queen, and that would have bought him some time, but didn't work out. Another thing is like getting just way more Zerglings instead of getting the Roaches. The Lings a little bit better if you want to put aggression on your opponent because they're fast on the map, they're more mobile. But the Roaches would have been better for the defense. So
yeah, and he lost
just a preference.
He lost all of his Lings too, so that's a lot of larvae he spent. And that's part of the reason why he's down in supply right now. just because he lost all of those links, didn't really accomplish anything with them, and that affects all of his production in general. Banshee's controlling the Watchtowers. We talked about how useful they are on a map like this. Hydralisk and Hive.
And think about it, like, he lost a lot of drones there, but he still has 80, so it could have been... It didn't cripple him as much as it did in the games before. And there were a lot of Hellions that were sacrificed for that. So it wasn't the worst trade, but it could have been better for CoCa. That's definitely true.
This base is probably going to be killed. He doesn't have mutas, and he doesn't have enough queens. He doesn't have... His creep's not going to allow his queens to get here in time.
He should cancel.
And the Banshees have +1.
Too far.
Yeah, he's going to have to. He's running out of time to cancel it. I think he... Why did he let that finish?
That was a mistake. That was just him not paying attention, I guess. There was no reason to not cancel.
Let's hope that one Infestor's not the egg that was at that hatchery. It could actually have been.
Yeah, it could actually be the case.
That would be funny.
What I like about CoCa right now is that he spreads his creep very actively across the map. He has very good vision of his quarter of the map here at the bottom left, and he is going to just improve on that. Rebuilds that base.
He has no roaches, right? He has only Hydralisks, and there's so many Blue Flame Hellbats and Siege Tanks here. It's not going to be something he can engage with.
Yeah, the army choice that he has is very, very weird. I love that we see Vipers now. That's something that he didn't get the chance to use in game number 1. The Blinding Clouds are amazing against mech, but he needs more than that. He needs something on the ground, like go for Broodlords. If you want to go Ultralisk, go for a massive switch into like Mutalisks, go for Swarm Hosts. Roaches this late in the game against this composition that's nearing 200 supply, well, I'm really eager to see how he's going to make that work.
Yeah, I mean, he has the Hive tech, so he can switch into Broodlords basically Aspire. Ultralisks are not going to work here.
He just doesn't have the tech. That's the thing.
Yeah, he...
Against this, with this many Hellbats, Ultralisks are actually not that bad.
Yeah, I guess you're right with this many Hellbats, but he's still got a decent amount of Siege Tanks. And
depends on where you engage. I just don't think that the few roaches... Like, look at these army supply, 124 against 90. Like, where's your army, CoCa?
He has 96 drones. That's too many. In this particular case, that's too many. Hellions not over here to defend the Zergling run by, meanwhile, but I mean, with not enough roaches here, this is going to be a slaughter.
Yeah, SuperNova is going to laugh at him if he drops the Blinding Claw. He's just going to walk out of them. There's no reason for him to even siege his tanks up.
Yeah, this is starting to look really bad. He's got SCVs for the repair.
Look at him just running away. This is like he's getting more roaches and more Hydras. He just wants to make sure that he has the army there, but that he has the army supply. But SuperNova, he's just crushing this right now. There come the Blinding Clouds. He can move out of that, but oh, nice. These were really good. The tanks sieged up, but it's already a little bit late. Most of the army is gone.
Thors
now
need to participate.
Yeah, the Thors are way too far, but CoCa is rebuilding his army immediately, but the Blinding Clouds are starting to wear off.
Yeah, the Blinding Clouds are going to wear off. That's why he's got drones down here. He's so desperate. 2 Vipers go down to those Thor shots. These Thors actually might be able to clean up some of the roaches.
CoCa is actually starting to pull through a little bit, and he has those extra bases. Keep that in mind. If it comes to a battle of nutrition, CoCa is going to win it.
Yeah. Well, here comes the rest of the SuperNova army. He's just, he's got to keep the momentum going on this one. Kill this hatchery. The hatch is gone.
Oh, one hatch down.
He cannot get abducted with one of those Thors. That would be huge. Or here come possibly Blinding Clouds. One Blinding Cloud only hitting 1 Siege Tank, though.
And the Vipers are being shut down, though. Here, oh, they move right into the Blinding Cloud. Have to move back here. The Siege Tanks, on the other hand, not affected. That's a big problem. And those 2 Banshees do a lot of damage. And CoCa is dropping in supply once again. So does SuperNova.
The Thors, you know, you can't underestimate how powerful they are, even against small groups of units like this. They just do so much damage so quickly. He's got 2 upgrades on those. Viper's a little bit vulnerable here. The Thor's not quite targeting, so he should be able to get another Blinding Cloud off, at least for one of them.
And CoCa is starting to have a big problem with his income, and also the lava is just not there anymore. Now he has to actually use the Queens too.
Oh, he's pulling those Siege Tanks to help out. Well, this flank of units needed to be there, but now he's heading over, and this could actually be what breaks the camel's back here on SuperNova's army. Doesn't have enough anymore. He's going to actually have to turn around and run.
Yep, SuperNova has to head back home.
His 3-3 was getting close to being finished, but it just was not ready. And now the game is in CoCa's hands, basically, the control of the map.
For me, one of the biggest problems that SuperNova had there was that his Thors were fighting Overlords, whereas the rest of the army was battling at the bottom of the map.
Yeah, he wasted way too many shots, way too much DPS there. 3-3 is about to finish for SuperNova, and it comes at a time where he's basically desperately going to try to hold his 4th base up to the top, where roaches are going over there.
It's also because the Thors are the only thing that he has against the Vipers to keep them at bay, and that never really happened because he was just attacking Overlords. He made an A move to the bottom, and that's why the Thors were just staying with as the rest of the army moved down.
It's just, I mean, still so many drones on the map for CoCa.
The drones itself is not a problem. Like, the thing is, what you usually try to do as a Zerg against this, you take the map because you know that your opponent has a very tough time of hunting those bases down. Then you go into a massive amount of drones, you get a crazy income, and you have a huge amount of resources that you can use for tech switches. When the Terran player then starts to move across the map, you usually try to get rid of a few of the drones by just building a few spines and spores. So that's the idea behind him overcommitting to drones at the beginning. It's just like that. He never really got the economy up. Now he does. Now he has the time that he needs to really capitalize on the drone count. He's still at 83, so that's not too much. But I've seen Zerg players actually go up to 100 drones and use that for a long time and then sack them later on when the Terran player moves out to just switch between techs. Which he can't do because he doesn't have the huge bank that he usually would have.
Yep. This Banshee with 3-3 is going to take a long time to kill the hatchery, but not very long to kill a drone. And one drone buys enough time actually to get the rest of the drones to safety. SuperNova is rebuilding his army. He's got 13 siege tanks and 16 Hellbats. That's still formidable. The lack of Thors is something that could only be a problem if CoCa were to switch to air, which he's not. Because he never had that Spire. He doesn't have any Spire upgrades. So for him, I think he's just going to keep sticking with the composition he's been working with. Here we go. 2 Vipers for Blinding Clouds. The siege tank's pretty well split here for SuperNova, but he doesn't have a ton of them.
Yeah, and at the same time, now CoCa is trying to just barrel down on their siege tanks everywhere, spread out quite well. Those Blinding Clouds are a huge problem. The Vikings completely out of position to shut down the Vipers. Finally were able to do it, but it might already be a little bit too late. On the other hand, SuperNova is still holding and going strong there, and this army for CoCa was not able to push through. But I have to say that SuperNova was sloppy there for a second.
Yeah,
not having
sure.
the Vikings in position to take down the Vipers is a big mistake. That's what they're there for.
If he had those Vikings to kill the Vipers, then he would have crushed that fight. As it is, he still has a strong army, and +3 attack is not ready for CoCa. He doesn't even have +3 Carapace queued.
But the problem is that Roach Hydra doesn't scale well against mech. Not at all. Like, you want to switch compositions, you want to add something tanky at the front if you're for this. But if you're caught out of position all the time, then it's a different story. The angles of attack for CoCa are always good, but
this is just a lot of mech still, and the Hellbats are loving fighting the Hydralisk because of that light damage. And it looks like he is going to clean this up. Maybe he has to land his Vikings even. It doesn't even have to.
Yeah, Hydras against siege tanks is a pretty one-sided battle.
Remember when the siege tanks didn't actually do less damage to light? That was like the craziest part when Hydralisk fought them.
The thing is that really, I would actually fire those Viking pilots because they are always in the wrong spot. They're always on the opposite side of the army when the Vipers are starting to drop their Blinding Clouds.
Yeah, I mean, he could do so much with just a few Vikings. This base is gone. This base to the top left is also going to be gone. It looks like it's about a shot or 2 away from dying. And look at the supplies. SuperNova stabilizes hard. And this counterattack, 1 Blinding Cloud going down. This time the Vikings are there.
Yeah, this was much better. The Blinding Clouds are still there, but only 2 this time. And that's starting to become a big problem here for CoCa. The rest of the army moves back. Yeah, this is only half the army that CoCa is fighting, and that's why he has a good shot of actually taking down those tanks. But he lost already quite a bunch of units, and now the rest of the army is going to move in pretty soon, and that means that CoCa is potentially going to be caught between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, that's the problem. He's going to lose all of his Hydras here. Even the SCV is helping out a little bit. And SuperNova takes a supply lead again. He's mining a decent amount, and he still has this army together, so now he can actually move across with his army all together, not really worried about run-bys. This small roach attack is going to be annoying to him. He's also got another command center. He can move to another location on the map, but all the bases that are near him are spread by creep.
It's a bit of a weird game. The problem for SuperNova was that the engagements for him always happened in very bad, or most of the time happened in bad spots, not all of them. A couple of times CoCa really moved into a siege tank position, which he probably shouldn't have. But what I like about CoCa's style is that he's trying to just find weak spots in Terran players' movement, and he was able to flank the army once, he was able to just circumvent the army and use Frost to a big map like Frost to his advantage and go in. But it's a little bit weird how these engagements actually work. Like, CoCa, I just don't think that this composition is something that you should really go for. On the other hand, he doesn't have the resources to do anything else. He had earlier a chance to build up that bank and switch compositions, but right now he has no other choice but to stick it out with this, because what else is he going to do? He doesn't have the resources to go into a complete tech switch, into, let's say, Brute Lords, into Ultralisks.
Yeah.
I would have maybe loved to see a couple of Swarm Hosts here, but on the other hand, it's a very big map, so it's very difficult to make that work too. I know, it's just a little bit... Now he's caught in a very awkward spot now.
For sure, he's kind of trapped on this tech. Meanwhile, we're going to have a drop down here at the south, and a scan by SuperNova reveals that there are no units to defend. Comes over here, not only kills a bunch of drones, but denies the mining. And the same is actually happening by this group of roaches, meanwhile, over here at the top left base for SuperNova. And he might actually lose his command center, possibly, if the Hydra's targeted. I don't think he's going to lose it, but there's too many siege tanks there.
Yeah, and the Vikings are doing a much, much better job against the Vipers now. Much better than earlier.
Yeah, he's actually just going to fight this in tank mode. The Hellbat's just so useful, the healing of the Medivacs, and
for those tanks alone, I mean, this is getting to a phase in the game where it's just a slaughter. This is the time when you need Brood Lords, where you need so many things right now, and he doesn't have them. He is just going for Hydras, he's going for Roaches, and he's trying to support them with Vipers as much as he can. But SuperNova's army composition, his economy, his upgrades are in a spot where it's just not going to work. And I love that SuperNova is always sending units over to the Zerg players' bases. We have Banshees, we have Hellbat drops.
Look at this, he's going to get so many drones because his drones are weakened from earlier. Now down to 51, he just killed 10 more Harvesters here, and he could kill even more. He's so worried about his Medivac because it's low on hit points, but like, oh man, this is CoCa falling apart because his composition is built on weak foundation.
It was a bit of a strange game, but SuperNova now should have this in his back.
He should. He's back waiting to get maxed, it looks like, before he moves across the map once again.
I mean, he had a really good shot earlier when he had those Thors, and then the Thors attacked. Overlords were trailing too far behind, couldn't help in the actual fight, and CoCa was able to pick off halves of the army at a time and won the game, or won the fight because of that. But then the Zerg player had a chance that he didn't use to really put more pressure onto SuperNova and get a good bank up and make tech switches happen. But now SuperNova has everything that he needs.
19 siege tanks on the map. Even making a Thor now because he's like, well, I don't really have answers for even Mutalisk. This Blinding Cloud is excellent on the other hand.
Yeah, that's a very weird clump up there by SuperNova. Everything on one spot when you're up against Vipers is not a good idea.
Yeah, well, he's got so much more defense now. Does CoCa start his Carapace upgrades? Okay, so he's on +2, so he at least got that.
The thing just is like 200, like the supply is the same, but max supply against Roach Hydra is not comparable.
For sure. His drops continue. There's not much left to mine at this base, but he's trying to affect whatever he can. Almost losing that extractor, I guess possibly because Vipers were working at it later, or earlier.
5 Vipers are being built.
That's like all of his money.
It's also the shot that he has. If he gets perfect Blinding Clouds off, he can do a lot.
That was a great scan. Sees it on the center tower and he's like, I know where you are.
CoCa's hopes right now is to fight a battle where the Terran player has his army too clumped up. He can drop his Blinding Clouds. The Vikings are not fast enough to shut down the Vipers. And if he gets the Blinding Clouds off, he can just crush the Terran army and try to go immediately into the production. That's currently his hope.
If he doesn't, though, he's down to 47 Harvesters. He has no bank, no transition tech-wise, and he will lose the game. He has to crush this army or the game is over. And SuperNova is not giving him that clumped up opportunity. This time he's spreading his siege tanks. He's moving slowly but steadily. This stutter step push across the map. And here we go. CoCa on the right side looks like he wants to commit this time. He's got all of his Vipers coming across. They have so much energy. He could try to blind and kill literally the entire army.
There was a scan though, and here we go now. We have immediately the targeting on the Vipers, not being fooled by the Overlords here. Job well done. The Blinding Clouds go down, but all of the Vipers are already dead, and there's still enough siege tanks without Blinding Clouds. GG, and SuperNova takes it.
Creative use of the Overlords, I like that. Trying to mess up the Viking AI, trying to make it harder to target them. CoCa looking frustrated here. He's now 0-3 against this player, and it's the same style he's playing, both players.
Yeah, the thing is, you cannot use that composition in the very late game. If you try to hit the timing, which he looked a little bit like he wanted to, then you might be able to pull it off, but in the late game you need to have more than simply Roach Hydra.
And the harassment from SuperNova made it so he never had enough economy, or enough units really, to actually transition into that composition. He was just kind of stuck on it.
Yeah, SuperNova's mistake, or the one thing where he didn't really look very solid, was the Thor micro at the beginning unit control that we talked about.
The Viking, you mean?
No, the Thors, when he didn't control the
Oh,
Thors
against
properly.
the Overlords,
Like,
yeah.
he had basically like two things where he kind of screwed up a little bit. The Thors at the beginning that he didn't have with the army, he had a good shot of winning it there. Then later he had problems zoning the Vipers with his Vikings. But then he really adapted to that style, spread his his siege tanks out very well, had very good aggression going on with Hellbat drops, with Banshees. So from that point on, he played quite solid there and reacted to everything that CoCa did.
CoCa's sweating, man. He is stressed out. Look at him. He's got sweat on his forehead. You can see his hair is like stuck to his head, and he's got sweat pouring down the side of his face. He's wiping it off of his face right now.
Altism Stronghold, which is a little bit similar to Frost in the regard that it's a 4-player map that is pretty big, and he could make it work there once again. Like, this was a much closer game than we had in the first best of 3 series. So CoCa has a shot here. He's behind one map, and yes, SuperNova is the favorite, but CoCa still has a shot.
He still has a shot. He could make this work. He's on... it's like he's just getting closer and closer to being eye level with SuperNova, but SuperNova's still taking game 1. If he wins just one more map, we will have another Terran player.
Yeah, one Terran player still has a chance to go to Code S here. He's ahead in the series with an 1-0. CoCa is going up against SuperNova. Zubu versus Jin Air Green Wings. Terran versus Zerg. And map number 2 coming up right now. Altism Stronghold. We have the GSL Code S.